pity the fool. Because a lot of guys in the Bible was asking for pity.
Yeah.
You know, and then a lot of them was saying I did a foolish act.
Right.
So I put it together.
The roar of black vans, the thunder of explosions. A black man steps out his mohawk, gleaming his neck heavy with gold chains. Mr.T, the fearless hero, the irreplaceable icon of the A-Team 1983. Everyone knows his strength. Everyone remembers the line, "I pity the fool." But what almost every fan has missed is something he never said in 40 years. Until now, a revelation not about fame, not about glory, but about a painful truth hidden behind the spotlight. What the A-Team truly represented was not action, not fighting, not comedy. It was something no one ever noticed, and that precisely was the tragedy. So what exactly has Mr. T been hiding from the world for 4 decades? 1952, Southside Chicago. Lawrence Terode was born in 1952. The youngest of 12 siblings, he faced poverty and street violence early in life. His father, a preacher, left the family when Lawrence was only 5, leaving his illiterate mother to raise 12 children on a small welfare check. She couldn't read or write, but she taught her son 3 things: believe in God, work hard, and never bow your head. In the Robert Taylor Homes Project's kids, his age easily fell into gangs and crime, but Lawrence chose sports as his escape. At Dunbar Vocational High School, he stood out for his strength and iron will. The stocky boy became both a Chicago wrestling champion and a feared football player. More importantly, he learned that respect isn't given, it's earned through right action. In his youth, he worked as a bouncer, a doorman, and later as a bodyguard for celebrities like Muhammad Ali, Diana Ross, and Steve McQueen. That job helped him craft his signature look, a clean mohawk inspired by West African Mandinka warriors, and dozens of gold chain symbols of black pride and the desire for respect. When asked why he insisted on calling himself Mr. T, he smiled and said, "All my life people called me boy. Now I want them to call me Mr." That harsh childhood didn't create a bitter man, but forged someone deeply compassionate. From the slums of Chicago, he carried a faith in God and a belief that true strength lies not in muscles, but in choosing what's right. Later, when he stepped onto the screen as B.A. Baracus, he wasn't acting, he was reliving the lessons of his youth: honesty, loyalty, and kindness. That's why by the 1980s, audiences didn't just see a warrior on screen, they saw a moral symbol. From a boy once scorned in the projects, Lawrence Terode became the man who turned morality into an icon, living proof that sometimes the road from darkness to fame is paved with faith, perseverance, and love. The man who turned morality into an icon. There was a time when American television was filled with muscular heroes: Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Chuck Norris. But among that forest of muscles, only one man made the whole world stop and listen. A black man with a T-shaped mohawk, a neck draped in gleaming gold chains, and a gravelly voice full of compassion. That man was Mr. T, and his role as B.A. Baracus in the A-Team 1983-1987 was the peak that turned him into an icon far beyond the screen. When the A-Team premiered, audiences had never seen a character like B.A., fierce yet gentle. He was a wanted ex-commando who could break locks, drive tanks, and defeat enemies in seconds. Yet amid the explosions and gunfire, he had a soft heart. He hated violence, feared flying, loved children, and always protected the weak. Unlike the cold-blooded heroes of his era, B.A., Baracus neither drank, smoked, nor killed. Every punch and every Jeep explosion was calculated. He fought to warn, never to harm. That's why millions of parents felt safe letting their children watch the A-Team. In a 1984 interview, Mr. T said, "Fans think I'm acting, but I'm surviving." That line was more than method acting. It was a confession from a man who grew up in Chicago's slums, where violence and racism were daily facts of life. To him, B.A. wasn't just a role. He was a moralized version of himself, a man who had endured poverty and violence and learned to use strength to protect rather than destroy. Mr. T's screen persona came not from Hollywood, but from real life. His mohawk was inspired by the Mandinka warriors of West Africa, a people he regarded as his spiritual ancestors. He cut it himself into a T-shape, symbolizing both his name and his pride. "I'm proud to be African." The dozens of gold chains weighing nearly 16 kilograms were reminders of the pain of slavery. He called them chains of gold. He said, "We turned iron into gold not to boast, but to remind the world that our ancestors were once bound by real chains." To the world, it looked eccentric. To the black community, it was a declaration of freedom. Children across America idolized him. In 1984, TV Guide reported that 98% of viewers aged 8 to 14 recognized Mr. T a higher rate than Mickey Mouse. They copied him not only for his strength, but for his message. True power isn't in muscles, it's in doing what's right. In poor inner-city neighborhoods, black boys shaved mohawks, wore imitation gold chains, and shouted, "I pity the fool," whenever they saw injustice. Mr. T had unknowingly become a street teacher, showing kids they could be strong without being violent. The power of B.A. Baracus went beyond appearance. He represented a generation of African Americans who had never seen a virtuous hero who looked like them. Before him, most black TV characters were criminals, drivers, or sidekicks. Mr. T shattered those stereotypes. In the A-Team, he performed the toughest stunts, flew planes, fixed engines, cracked locks, and rescued hostages, earning the respect of his teammates as the group's backbone. That image changed Hollywood's view of black actors not just as side characters, but as moral and physical centers of strength. Critics once doubted whether someone as loud and rough as Mr. T could become an icon. But after the first season, all doubts vanished. The A-Team rose into NBC's top 10 shows, drawing over 20 million weekly viewers. Merchandise from toys and comics to Mr. T cereal brought in more than $100 million within 2 years. On each cereal box, his smiling face appeared beside the slogan, "I'm tough, but kind." American kids ate breakfast with their hero every morning while parents felt their children were learning something good. Notably, Mr. T never let Hollywood write his moral code. He demanded that his character maintain strict ethics, no smoking, no drinking, no profanity, and no jokes about God. "I want every kid to see me as a father figure, not a killer hero," he said. In an era when American TV overflowed with violence, that was a bold stance, but it made the A-Team a family-safe phenomenon. Those who worked with Mr. T said he carried that same spirit behind the scenes. When a director asked him to hit harder, he replied, "I'll knock him down, but I won't kill. I'm not teaching kids to kill." And indeed, through 5 seasons and hundreds of explosions, no villains ever died. Jeeps flipped, planes burned, yet the camera always showed them crawling away, the creed of bloodless action fully preserved. For Mr. TBA, Baracus was more than a role, it was therapy for survival. After years of guarding others and witnessing real-life violence, he found a way to transform pain into art. When audiences laughed at "I pity the fool," they had no idea that behind that grin lay the memories of a child who'd been beaten, starved, and forced to fight to survive. That role saved him, and through him it saved a generation lost amid the storm of 1980s violence. Global reach of his power. When the A-Team first aired in 1983, no one expected that a comedic action series could accomplish what even Hollywood couldn't, turning a black man with a mohawk and a neck full of gold into a global cultural icon. Within just a few months, the name Mr. T had crossed American borders, finding its way into homes, cafes, and schoolyards in over 80 countries. With a 24% share of the television audience, the A-Team quickly became NBC's top-rated show for years, a true worldwide phenomenon. In Italy, it aired on national channel RAI and topped the charts for consecutive weeks. In the UK, it became part of pop culture. Children lined up to buy toys modeled after the characters, wore t-shirts with the slogan, "I pity the fool," and young men competed to shave their hair into mohawks. In Indonesia, the series reran continuously from 1989 to 1994, an unprecedented record for an American TV show. In the Philippines, South Africa, Thailand, and even Vietnam during the 1990s, the A-Team was prime time for every family with a black and white TV. Kids memorized the names of the 4 outlaw soldiers, and among them, B.A. Baracus, with his muscles, gold chains, and booming voice, was always the most beloved. The miracle was that Mr. T wasn't remembered merely for his strength, but for the message within it. He turned his character into a living moral lesson. While most action shows of the era glorified violence, the A-Team made millions believe in kindness. There was no blood, no corpses, only laughter and justice. Viewers didn't tune in to watch people get beaten down, but to see villains redeemed. That's why the A-Team was more than entertainment, it was therapy for the soul. Mr. T understood that television's power outweighed any punch. As his fame spread, he quickly extended his influence beyond the screen. In 1983, he appeared in the animated series Mr. T, voicing himself a coach leading a team of young gymnasts who solved mysteries, overcame challenges, and learned to live with integrity. Each episode ended with a moral help. Your friends, be honest, and always believe in yourself. That wasn't a studio script, it was Mr. T's personal philosophy. Because of it, Mr. T became one of the first educational cartoons led by an African-American broadcast worldwide. In 1984, he released a rap album titled Mr.T's Commandments, a shock to the music world at the time. Instead of rapping about money, cars, or power, he rapped about faith, respect, and education. Don't talk to strangers, stay in school, respect your mama. The album was described as a sermon with a beat, entertaining yet inspirational. It reached millions of American students and was played in churches, schools, and community centers. That same year, Mr.T launched the motivational video, Be Somebody or Be Somebody's Fool, a curious blend of music, life lessons, and psychology. He taught kids how to control emotions, face failure, and love their parents. The video sold millions of copies and was shown in classrooms and youth correctional centers. Across America, people said, "If parents can't make your kids listen, let Mr. T talk to them." Indeed, the image of that strong black man became a true teacher on screen. He didn't just act, he educated through action. In every line and every punch of B.A. Baracus audiences felt the message of dignity, resilience, and compassion. No one else in the 1980s achieved that. Among all Hollywood heroes, Mr. T alone turned fame into a lesson. He didn't preach politics or philosophy, he spoke simple truths. Don't drop out. Respect your mother. Pray before you sleep. And if you see someone weaker, help them. It was a universal morality that every child could understand, regardless of color or language. In reality, his influence reached far beyond entertainment. In African nations such as Ghana, Nigeria, and Kenya, Mr. T's image appeared on t-shirts, postcards, and posters, a symbol of black pride. Many called him the modern Mandinka, a warrior bringing the African spirit to Hollywood. In Europe, scholars analyzed the Mr. T phenomenon as a unique fusion of classical heroism and Christian morality in a black body. Over 40 years later, that legacy remains. At Comic-Con events and cosplay festivals, hundreds still dress as Mr. T mohawks, plastic chains, and loud shouts of "I pity the fool" as a salute of respect. In Japan, there's even a themed cafe inspired by the A-Team. In the US, some schools still play Be Somebody or Be Somebody's Fool in ethics classes. Because ultimately, Mr. T's real power was never in his fists, but in the cultural legacy he left behind, transforming physical strength into moral strength. He taught a generation that you could be muscular, rebellious, and loud, yet still be good, still love, still believe. And that is why more than 4 decades later, the world remembers him not as an action star, but as a hero with the heart of a teacher. The fiery battle behind the scenes. The studio lights blazed, the audience laughed, cars exploded on set. The A-Team looked like a celebration of joy and adrenaline. But behind those meticulously staged blasts were real collisions, not of vehicles, but of egos. And at the center of it all stood Mr. T, the star both respected and feared by Hollywood. From the very first season, the crew could sense 2 opposing forces on set. On one side was George Peppard, a veteran actor and former leading man of Breakfast at Tiffany's, the embodiment of old-school Hollywood, disciplined, aloof, and fiercely proud. On the other side was Mr. T, the newcomer from Chicago's slums, loud as thunder, laughing boldly, arriving on set with kilos of gold chains and an unmistakable style. When the cameras rolled, they were perfect teammates. But when the lights went off, the air grew thick like smoke after an explosion. Peppard felt overshadowed. Once the top-billed star, he now watched the world rave about the muscle-bound guy with the crazy hair. Mr. T's salary reached $80,000 per episode, higher than anyone else in the cast, even Peppard. The press called him the soul of the show, and fans lined up for his autograph before the leading man's. The veteran actor's pride had been wounded. Tension grew so severe that the two stopped speaking off camera. Colleagues recalled Peppard avoiding Mr. T at lunch, while Mr. T responded in his own way by praying. He later said, "I still called him sir. I didn't hate Peppard. I just understood he was fighting his own shadow." The media at the time fueled countless rumors that Mr. T talked too much, that he forced the crew to listen to his sermons, that he was so demanding everyone grew exhausted. Robert Vaughn, brought in during season 5 to ease the atmosphere, once described him from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. He never stopped talking about God, life, and morality, but he never lied. Vaughn realized that beneath the noise, Mr. T was simply trying to protect his principles in the shallow world of Hollywood. The tension between the two men lasted for years, but few know how it ended. Near the end of his life, George Peppard sent flowers to the hospital where Mr. T was receiving cancer treatment, along with a short note from Hannibal with respect. Mr. T said he burst into tears upon reading it. He didn't apologize with words, he apologized with his heart. And that's what was real. That gesture closed one of television's most famous rivalries of the 1980s, transforming it into a testament of forgiveness, the very spirit that the A-Team had always stood for. Doubts about the script. Yet personal conflicts were only part of the story. On another level, the A-Team faced skepticism from critics. Many major newspapers at the time called the series a live-action Tom and Jerry full of explosions and flipped cars, but strangely, no one ever died. One critic mocked, "This is an action show for people who believe bullets are just for scaring, and cars explode automatically on impact." But that very quality became the secret to its enduring appeal. Mr.T sharply rejected accusations of fake violence. "I don't want kids to see blood. I want them to see a compassionate hero. Every time I fire a gun, it's to scare, not to kill. I want children to understand that strength isn't about destruction, it's about self-control." That statement became his moral declaration and the soul of the A-Team. Beneath its humorous action, the show carried a deeply humanistic philosophy: honor, loyalty, and forgiveness. Each character bore the scars of war, yet instead of letting the past consume them, they used it to help others. That's why millions loved the show. They found in it a belief that even those once hunted could become heroes. And at the center of that philosophy stood Mr. T, shining not just with the glint of gold chains, but with the light of a man who believed that faith could overcome any conflict. Though he faced misunderstandings, ridicule, and clashes in real life on screen, he remained the embodiment of strength guided by compassion. Looking back years later, Mr. T said simply, "I wasn't given a role, I was put in a box. But if that box helps people see something good, I'm happy to live in it forever." A confession both bitter and proud from a hero who fought not only on screen, but against prejudice and the shadow of his own fame. Disappearing from the spotlight. When the A-Team ended in 1987, millions of viewers thought they had forever lost a television hero. But for Mr. T, that was not the end. It was the beginning of another journey, one where he would turn strength and fame into tools for education, charity, and faith. To him, the world didn't need another action hero. The world needed real people who knew how to act rightly. After filming Wrapped, Mr. T nearly withdrew from Hollywood, but not from the public. He began appearing in schools, churches, hospitals, and community centers across America with a new slogan, "Stay in school, fool." It sounded humorous, but it was a wake-up call for inner-city youth on the verge of dropping out. In the 1980s, when Chicago's dropout rate exceeded 40%, he became a true street teacher. Mr. T often funded his own speaking tours, no advertising, no scripts. He told his story from a fatherless boy in the projects to standing beside Muhammad Ali and Sylvester Stallone. He said, "If I, a poor black kid everyone laughed at, can succeed without quitting school, so can you." Teachers recalled that after each talk he left his real phone number saying, "If one of your students drops out, call me. I'll talk to them." And he truly did, answering dozens of calls and personally visiting students. His message was always the same. Strength isn't in muscles, it's in the will to do right. He taught that muscles can open doors, but wisdom helps you walk through them. Many later said a single meeting with Mr. T changed their lives, not because he was famous, but because he was genuine. But education wasn't the only thing he devoted himself to after the A-Team. He quietly became one of America's most consistent celebrity philanthropists. Before fame, he had promised God that if he won the America's Toughest Bouncer competition, he would donate all the prize money to the poor. When he won not once but twice, he kept that vow. That was the beginning of his lifelong charity work. In Los Angeles, he regularly visited the Midnight Mission Homeless Center, bringing food, blankets, and clothes. He never invited the press or cameras. "I don't do it to be praised. I do it because I've been hungry. I've slept on the streets," he said. In Chicago, he stayed close to the Cosmopolitan Community Church, where he was often invited to speak about faith and perseverance. His talks had no fancy stage, just him, a microphone, and a story. He often began with, "You may not have gold on your neck, but you always have God in your heart." Christian faith was the pillar that kept him steady through life's storms. He joined Make-A-Wish Foundation events, visiting children with cancer, signing autographs, and singing for them. One boy said, "I want to hug B.A. Baracus before I die." Mr. T replied, "You're not hugging B.A., you're hugging the real Mr. T, the man who's praying for you." To him, charity wasn't about giving money, but about sharing time, faith, and respect. He often returned to his old Chicago neighborhood, not as a celebrity, but as a neighbor. He helped repair his childhood church's roof-painted walls and told the kids playing basketball, "Don't dream of being an actor, dream of being good first." In the 1990s, as pop culture glorified rebellion, Mr. T chose the opposite path, keeping faith, teaching virtue, and living simply. The media once called him the poorest of the rich stars. He didn't invest, flaunt luxury cars, or chase mansions. Most of his monthly income went directly to community funds, churches, or youth scholarships. He once said, "I used to wear gold to remember the past. Now I use faith to build the future." That line became the symbol of his post-fame years, the mark of a true hero after the lights had gone out. The journey of overcoming illness. For Mr. T, life was never a movie with a clear ending. When the stage lights dimmed, a new battle began, not against an enemy he could knock down with muscle, but against an invisible foe creeping through his cells. In the late 1990s, doctors diagnosed him with a rare and aggressive cancer T-cell lymphoma, a disease with a high fatality rate that often left patients debilitated within months. For a man the world once called steel, it was a devastating blow. Months of chemotherapy stripped away his iconic mohawk, the very symbol of Mr. T's image. Clumps of hair fell onto the hospital floor, each strand a reminder of the brutal fights he once staged on screen. But this time there were no cameras, no directors shouting "cut." Only him, the illness, and his faith. He later recalled, "When I saw my hair fall out, I laughed. I told the doctor, I fought Rocky, now it's cancer's turn." Many thought it was just bravado, but those who saw Mr. T in the hospital knew he was truly fighting like a warrior. He prayed every morning, spoke kindly to nurses, and encouraged fellow patients with his unwavering optimism. "I didn't ask God, 'Why me?' I said, 'Thank you for choosing me for this test.'" For nearly 2 years he endured treatment without complaint, without hiding, and without self-pity. He saw the disease as a divine trial, a way to strip away fame and relearn humility. When doctors finally declared him cancer-free, Mr. T simply smiled and said, "God won, not me." After recovery, he returned to the public eye not as an action hero, but as the host of the reality series, I Pity the Fool 2006. In the show, he traveled across America helping people resolve conflicts in families, workplaces, and communities. Instead of punches, he used humor, empathy, and faith to heal. One viewer wrote, "He made me believe that a man who once blew things up on screen could mend hearts in real life." Later, Mr. T appeared at the 2014 WWE Hall of Fame, where he was honored not only for his wrestling career, but for his dedication and moral integrity. During his 15-minute speech, he mentioned his mother more than 70 times, tears falling amid thunderous applause. "My mama taught me to believe in God, to love people, and to never forget where I came from. I am the product of my mother's prayers," he said. 3 years later, at age 65, he moved audiences again when he joined Dancing with the Stars 2017. No longer the indestructible warrior, he danced slowly, each step trembling yet full of life. "I didn't come to win," he said. "I came to show those who are sick that if I can still dance, you can still live." Another moment profoundly reshaped his faith and image: Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Witnessing thousands lose their homes and belongings, he realized that the gold on his neck had become a symbol of guilt. "Seeing people lose everything, I couldn't wear my gold like nothing happened," he said. He removed nearly all his chains, once symbols of ancestral pride, and donated them to relief funds. From then on, he kept only one small chain, just enough to remember who I am. From that moment, Mr. T lived more simply than ever. He was no longer the flashy icon of the 1980s, but a model of faith and gratitude. He began speaking in churches, sharing his story of survival and the lessons of inner peace he had learned. "I used to think gold made me strong," he said. "Now I know God is my strength." For millions of fans, Mr. T's victory over cancer wasn't just a medical miracle, it was proof of unbreakable faith. He didn't return with muscles, but with humility. Not with explosions on screen, but with a calm, steady voice. No matter how many times you fall, if you have faith, you can still stand up. And so the man who once terrified the world with his steel-hard image moved them to tears with his compassion. Mr. T proved one truth: a real hero doesn't need to save the world, he just needs to keep saving his own soul. If Mr. T's story moved, you don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the real journeys behind Hollywood's bright lights. We'll continue bringing you stories of those who once reached the top and the untold shadows that came with it.
All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on information available at the time of production. The content is subject to change over time and should not be considered a definitive forecast. There is still so much more to explore: stories of resilience, legacy, and truth. Feel free to dive into some of our top recommended videos now and during